gentlemen, Neil Peart, Geddy Lee, Alex Lifeson, the band Rush. Episode 22, folks. The Bobby Kudo Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you doing today? It gets your blood pumping, doesn't it? Guys, ladies, everyone, welcome. Welcome, episode 22 of the Bobby Kudo Show. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that intro, brought to you by one of the greatest bands of my lifetime, Rush. Unfortunately, not to come in on a bad note, but if you follow, if you follow anything, you'd have to have heard it by now. We have lost drummer Neil Peart to a battle with brain cancer. From what I understand, from what I'm read, he battled for about 3 years. That's a really long time to battle that terrible disease. You know, I not to get into too many specifics and not to bring the show in on a really low note, but I know he suffered a lot of tragedy in his life, even the loss of a couple of children, if I'm not mistaken. So very tragic. Might have even been his wife as well. Very tragic story, but nonetheless, an amazing energy and talent. The contribution to the music industry, to the music world, to the millions of drummers. You know, shout out to a good friend of mine, Sergio Francisco, who, you know, for as long as I knew Sergio, you know, I'd have to say that I knew the name, I knew that the band Rush. I did not know Neil Peart until, you know, Serge kind of shined the light on him. And, you know, at that point you appreciate and really, if you get into the musicology of Rush, and you listen to the amazing offbeats and runs that it's just amazing. You know, it's a 3-man band. You know, I didn't know they had a couple other members that came in and did a lot of the electronics for him, like, you know, backup keyboards and things like that. But ultimately, Rush was always a 3-man band. And they just sounded amazing. You know, I say it, you can't make that again, guys. If you listen to that, it's just... And so we say goodbye to you, Neil Peart. But you know what? Your legacy, you know, guys, if there's one thing you know about the show, it's all about legacy. And the legacy you leave behind is amazing. You know, just real quick, I'll read the tweet that the band had put out. It is with broken hearts and with the deepest sadness that we must share the terrible news that on Tuesday, our friend, soul brother, and bandmate for over 45 years, Neil, lost his incredibly brave 3.5-year battle with brain cancer. We ask that his friends, fans, and media alike understandably respect the family's needs for privacy and peace at this extremely painful and difficult time. Those wishing to express their condolences can choose a cancer research group or charity of their choice and make the donations in the name of Neil Peart. Rest in peace, brother. Amazing. You know, we opened up with The Spirit of Radio. Great tune. Yeah, great tune. That was off their album Moving Pictures. That was like right around 1980, I believe. And they toured for a while, and they did a lot of a lot of world touring. It was a different kind of, I don't know, different genre. It was rock and roll, but it had a little, it's kind of that electronic, and amazing sounds for three men playing instruments. They just, you would think there were six people playing instruments, but they just outstanding. I did have an opportunity. I will, not that I always or want to, but I'll give Jake Cavallo some credit. He ended up having tickets once to go see them, and unfortunately things didn't work out, and I couldn't go. I think he went. I think he had an amazing time and enjoyed it. But again, not to get too far into that, but I just wanted to spend a little time and just appreciate Neil and the contribution. And with that, I figured, somebody as important and pivotal in the music industry. I mean, if we're going to talk about anything or anybody, we got to talk about. We have to talk about the year that he was born, and that would be 1967. So Neil, he was born in 1967, and just to kind of go through some of this, I figured it was a really cool year. This is probably as far back as we've gone. We haven't gone this far back. So I thought it'd be really, really cool to get into some of the things. I wonder if sometimes we lose sight of the cost of what it cost then, what it costs now, and you can almost, again, it's that mild and slow progression of just life around us. And I always like to go, and I always like to challenge those just kind of everyday you see it, you kind of lose sight of it moment. So here we are, episode 22. Guys, it's been a crazy week. I won't lie to you. Just a little under the weather this week. I ended up with a minor cold. I say minor cold. It was more like a major ear infection. But, with some antibiotics, some steroids, making it through. Hopefully, just kind of get back to normalcy tomorrow, kind of catch up on some loose ends. But, I caution you all to be careful out there. Everybody's working hard, and especially coming out of the holidays, guys. It's if you don't take care of yourself, you kind of just wear yourself real thin, and you end up getting these things. So, in the process of getting much better, and I'll stick it through, and really was looking forward to getting behind the microphone tonight. Kind of just, like I mentioned, it was a slow week for me. A lot of rest, a lot of hydrating, just to kind of, make sure, you can try to be a hero. I've gotten to that point. Most of you will. Your younger folk will probably disagree, but as I find as I get older, it just, when you try to just fight through it, it lasts forever. You can never get rid of it, and sometimes your body's just telling you to just take a second, chill out, and rest. And sometimes you got to do that. And this was one of those times where I just needed to take some time to myself and get some medication in me and get myself better. And I will tell you that I feel much better now. I'm looking forward to the week. I'm looking forward to some of the challenges I got to kind of work through. But ultimately, it'll be really, really, rewarding, right? Just to kind of, guys, I say it all the time, the idea of being home, it's like, yeah, I want to be home. But then when you're actually home, it kind of sucks just to be home all the time. You know what I mean? You got to, you almost kind of, bounce off the walls. But, hey, look, 1967, we were being led by Mr. President Lyndon B. Johnson. And we were in the middle of a war in Vietnam. We total of 475,000 troops were in Vietnam. And the peace rallies were multiplying. And if you guys remember, like the 60s, phew, it was like the time of rebellion, right? Like we had a whole generation that it just wasn't taking the the same old. Like they were just looking for something different. They didn't want to be in the war. People were dying. Did everybody have the best interest in mind? In those protests. I think a lot like today. A lot of the information you get, and so some people go out there for the right reasons because they're educated and they understand the reasons why you're protesting in the first place. And then you have another group of people that just kind of like cattle. You know what I mean? Like you see there's one cow down the middle and it's heading towards the opening, and the other 50,000 cows follow that one, and they're all holding signs, and nobody understands what the hell they're talking about when they have a question. They just don't even know. The narrative is whatever they're ingesting from CNN or Fox, which is a shame because it ultimately it kind of brings me to a point I wanted to make today, and just and again, I mentioned it in 21, and I'll mention it in 22. Very frustrated, with and maybe it's just what I'm digesting on the media end, but the idea that any Americans, any of us would undermine American lives. I think that when we start doing things like that, and I'll say it, it's this whole idea with Nancy Pelosi and the impeachment, and they're gonna it just all of this is just it's too much going on all at once, and it just you try to figure out what the hell is going on, and then meanwhile in Iran they're shooting missiles at passenger planes, and you've got 176 people that are dead. So something's got to break here. Something has to change. I think we really need to stop for a minute and realize and prioritize what our focus is going to be, because we're all over the place. You got the president sending drones over and blowing up these terrorist leaders, and you get the Democrats saying that he shouldn't be doing that, and that they're going to write legislation to minimize his presidential power as commander in chief to use the military the way he sees fit. Like, this is, to me, these are conversations that I don't know about you, but I'm not used to having. You typically, the conversations you're having about government are related to something that might be in disagreement, whether it be healthcare, taxes, some foreign policy, but something like this where you got passenger planes being shot out of the sky, and then somehow, I mean, for goodness sake, guys, regardless of how you feel, somehow Iran blaming the United States for that happening. To me, even the idea that something like that would even be muttered is an absolute travesty. So I don't accept it. I refuse to accept it. I refuse to allow anyone else to say something like that, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're Americans, and what we need to do is protect American lives at any cost. That's there's nothing, when we hear that there's a person or someone lost at sea, within all possible means, we will deploy whatever it takes. The money is not the object. The object is to save the life, even if it's one. You do whatever, and you can't lose that. You cannot lose the sight of that is the core of what you're doing, is you're saving American lives. So the idea, that we I'm not taking sides, but we can prove wholeheartedly, without any question whatsoever, that the Soleimani guy, it was responsible for American lives, right? We can all agree that the fact that he's not on the planet anymore makes the world a very much better place. Agreed? I say yes. So where is the argument? Why are we having a conversation about it? Why is it that there is a side that's saying that no, that we shouldn't? You look, guys, there was an attack on our embassy. What do you do as Americans? You allow that to happen? You can't allow that to happen, because if you allow it to happen there, then it starts to happen everywhere. It's no different. When the dog pisses on the rug, you got to stop the dog from pissing on the rug. Period. I mean, no disrespect, but it'll happen. I guarantee, you get a puppy, the dog pisses on the rug, but you put a stop to it real quick because you don't want the dog pissing on the rug. And this is exactly one of those situations. But in this case, we're talking this on an epic level where you're talking the cost of 176 souls. people that were going home. There were Canadians, a lot of like 50 Canadians, people that were getting on a plane just like everybody does every day, getting on the plane and just going somewhere, going where they needed to go. And it's not already dangerous enough to fly with mechanical failure, right? Boeing. Now you got people, they're shooting missiles. I mean, it's tragic. And then you watch the footage of it, and it's like, here, if you have a plane that goes down, like they literally quarantine, a 5-mile radius, and they got people on the ground, and they're picking up every single microscopic piece of this fuselage. And you look at the footage from Iran, and they're scavenging through everything, and they're taking the belongings of the people that died. Like it's guys, can you see the issue here? I mean, but we have to understand and get past this idea that we're gonna somehow, win votes, or you're gonna somehow win a vote or win a side by siding with the enemy or anyone that would endanger American lives, or be categorized as the leading generating force of terrorism in the world. That's Iran. That's not. I'm not making that up. You know what I mean? I'm not just sitting here being angry and talking about it. What I am angry and frustrated about is that innocent people are dying, and there's no reason for it. So, we with this our diplomatic ways, and what we want to do, and the president should do this and should. Just these are things that are beyond. We don't. You know what? You drive down the highway. You see a car accident. I mean, I hate to repeat myself, but you drive down the highway, you see an accident, right? You drive by the accident, and immediately your brain is trying to figure out what took place here. How did that accident happen? But even though you don't have all the information, there are so many factors that took place. It could have been a deer. Nobody sees the deer. The deer's in the woods. The deer's gone. That could have been the cause of the accident. Could have been a dog. Could have been a turkey. Nobody knows. But yet you automatically try to create, okay, this is what happened. We need to stop doing that. We don't have all the information. We cannot come out with a conclusion until you have all the information. And that's what's happening. We're getting information, partial information from all sides, and we don't even know. And we're already jumping to conclusions. I would think by now, we're 22 episodes in, guys, that you pretty much know where I stand. And I would imagine you are where you stand. And I think we must have some commonality, or I'd hope, even if it's in not a commonality, in that you just like the challenge in intellect. But for whatever reason, if you're listening, to me, there's nothing more valuable than human life, regardless of what life it is. So, with that said, I don't want to beat this down or talk about. I don't even want to talk about it anymore because it's just exhausting. But you have to address these things, and you have to talk about them, because then otherwise people say that you don't care. I care very, very much. But the questioning and the social media and the way the politicians are using this to their advantage, to me, is shameful. I just can't stand it, and I refuse to just not say something about it. And that's what leads up to this type of thing. And I understand that we want to follow our party and we want to support our party, but ultimately, really, you know what? Just because you have a good personal, great friend of yours, right? Like your buddies, you love each other, you love hanging out. Sometimes they might say some inappropriate things that make you feel uncomfortable. It doesn't mean you always have to agree with them, right? Right? You could be like, you know what? I don't like that. It doesn't mean you guys aren't great friends or you girls aren't great friends. That doesn't mean anything. It just means that you don't have to agree with everything. And this is just one of those situations. It's okay to be like, okay, I don't agree with what Elizabeth Warren is saying because she doesn't make any freaking sense. I don't know what the hell Nancy Pelosi is talking about. Are they going to impeach him? Are they not going to impeach him? Like, what are they waiting for? But what I can do, what I do know, the only thing I can say with certainty is when you have this kind of show of just divide in our government, it makes us look weak. It does. It makes us look weak. And I'll use the example of, the kid with the parents. One parent, another parent. The parents are arguing. The kid has the advantage, right? Because one parent's trying to be good to the kid, and the other parent's trying to be good to the kid. Meanwhile, the kid plays both sides. Same situation. same situation. So I caution you guys, let's talk about fun stuff. I don't want to talk about that anymore. But guys, welcome. Here, I was episode 22. I'm so excited to be here. I had a couple of things. Like I said, the week was kind of blurry for me. But I did get some, I did do some research. I was kind of laid out a little bit, but I did do some research, kind of doing some upgrades to the show, bringing some other elements of technology, and even on the software end, there's this really cool, if I told you guys that on Saturday morning, I was on a conference stream, with Manbraid Podcast from Australia and, Delvin Cox from Miami. The three of us, just happened to just kind of be in this new technology called Discord. It really is like a server-based technology that we can actually just kind of literally click into it. And if I see them there, I can literally, the way that we're talking right now, the way that I'm communicating with you, I can communicate exactly with them, which brings a whole other level to the podcast. Cause really now, the idea that I was in communication, like for example, if I was to dial him in right now or just click him in right now, we would have him on and he's in Australia and we could literally ask him, hey, what, and I did. And I what's the deal with the fires? You guys are, and he said, what, really, quite honestly, he says, I don't want to take anything away from it. It's really bad. It is terrible, but it's not as bad, as the news is, portraying it to be. Obviously a lot of animals are being displaced, but the magnitude of it, he goes, that kind of, they to them, it's like the California fires for us. Not to minimize any of that because it's all devastating loss, but nonetheless, he said where he's at, he can't smell the smoke or anything. But I just thought it was really cool, right? And it wasn't even something that I was planning on doing. I kind of just, I got a link for it. He set it from those guys, and I'm like, well, let me just take a look and see what this is all about. And then I clicked into it, and next thing you know, we were kind of having a full out conversation, and we just really talking about a lot of things. Even if you guys have a chance, I always hate to ever direct you guys in any other direction other than mine, but Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience, he is, if you don't know, if you guys like podcasts, you probably already know, he's like the podcast god. You know what I mean? He's, if there's anybody out there doing it and getting it and doing it right, it's him. And bravo to him because he is fantastic. I was listening to him the other day, and he had on this gentleman whose name escapes me at the moment. But if you have a chance, it's the latest episode, and it's amazing information. And this shout out to Gary Cabral for letting me know about it. Amazing episode about the Mexican cartel, that Mexican, that whole issue there with that family. That tragedy, I should say, with that family that got shot going through that barricade in the road, what that was all about, the some of the other inner workings of just the cartel and what's going on down there. It'll absolutely blow your mind. And if you have a chance to go listen to that because it was fantastic. So guys, guess what? 1967. What do you think? I'm saying the average cost of a new house would be what if I'm in 1967? What if I told you guys 14 grand? Right? And again, this is, like I mentioned to you guys before, this is like a 2-bedroom, maybe like a bath and a half. I'll say 2 baths, but $14,250. Your average income per year in 1967 was $7,300. If you wanted to rent, you could rent. Rent was going to cost you about $125 a month. Not bad. But again, I hope you don't have a lot of kids, right? If you could just you and your old lady and maybe a little one, you know what I mean? Or your young lady, whatever it is. You have your situation. It's $125. Gas per gallon, 33 cents. But then again, 1967, was everybody driving? Maybe. Average cost for a new car was about $2,750. A movie ticket was going to cost you about $1.25. Funny. And a Polaroid camera. I will tell you, my good friend, my good close personal friend Stevie, shout out Stevie. He actually, his pension is from Polaroid. He could and still does remember every single part. He worked in the parts depot. So if you were building these the Polaroid cameras, if you needed a part, you would go see him. He knows every single inside part of that camera by part number. Imagine that, the amount of years that he worked there. Pretty cool. How about this? How about minimum wage? You ready for minimum wage? Minimum wage was $1.40 an hour, right? You guys complaining now, right? Imagine that, $1.40 an hour. Who wants to work for that? But again, in 1967, right? What's it costing you? I'll tell you what, a Ford Cortina would cost you $749. How about that? Right? 1967. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. If you didn't know, boxer Muhammad Ali, he was stripped of his boxing world championship for refusing to be inducted into the U.S. Army. That was a big deal, and then he changed his name, Muslim. There was a lot going on there. That was in Israel was also at war with Syria, Egypt and Jordan. That was the 6 Day War when Israel controlled and occupied the territory before the war. On June 8th, the USS Liberty, and United States Naval Technical Research Ship, is attacked by Israel Air Force. Imagine that, guys. Like, you think of Israel now, like Israel's our friend, and but you know what? That wasn't always the case. On June 8th of 1967, they were attacked. They attacked a United States naval ship with a torpedo. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know that. That's that kind of blows your mind. And now today, our relationship with them and all that we do for them, and I guess what they do for us. I guess maybe on the technology end, because I told you before, Israel is they are the technical espionages of the world. I got to be careful, because the next thing you know, my podcast will disappear. How much did things cost in 1967? You ready for this? Let's see. Good. All right. So good. We got through that. That's great. And let's talk a little bit about something really special. How about the growth or birth of the United States Corporation of Public Broadcasting? Imagine that, PBS. That was the birth, 1967. That was created. That went through a whole rigmarole. And if you guys had a chance to watch the movie there with Tom Hanks there playing Mr. Rogers, I think a part of it. I won't even pretend like I watched it yet, because I haven't. I will watch it, because I just want to see. I was kind of born around that. I guess I would. You know what? It was around for me to watch it. Because it's been on PBS like forever, with Sesame Street and all that. But nonetheless, I know that even Mr. Rogers went to Congress, and they fought for funding, and but whatever it was, they ended up getting it. And PBS, it is what it is today. And I think it's PBS, and then even like WGBH here, and that's what. Nationwide, but I know for a fact, real cool one here for you real quick. And if you guys ever watch it, you always see like PBS, they're always like looking for sponsors. Sponsor us, please. We'll send you a DVD, we'll send you a bag, and sponsor, this great programming. Well, it turns out like WGBH in Boston, they pay, I won't even mention the names of the hosts. I think it's me and Margie, whatever he is, but they're getting over $400,000 a year. Isn't that crazy? But would you ever guess that like it's like publicly funded? It's funded by the government. Taxpayers pay for it. We people make donations to it, but yet they're paying their radio hosts over. Hey, look, I'm not hating or anything, but when you work for like a company, I always think like right. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking of it. Maybe I'm just wrong. But for $400,000 a year, I think that's a little much. I think so. I think you'd agree. Other really cool stuff that happened in 1967. You ready for this? How about the first heart transplant? How about that? Although this was pretty cool. I'll share this with you. The first successful human-to-human heart transplant takes place in December. Dr. Christiane Bernard performed the operation on a 53-year-old patient, Louis Wachowski. The operation took place in Grosse Shore Hospital in Cape Town in South Africa. The transplant was successful, and Wachowski's body did not reject the organ, although he did die just 18 days later due to a double pneumonia brought on by the immunization drugs. How terrible is that, right? After the success, Bernard continued to perform successful heart transplants, with the survival times of patients increasing and gradually the technology advancing. Like today, now, I mean, if you can get a viable heart, I mean, the chances of you, the idea of just getting one, you know, I think it's not, that's the hardest part, right? Is getting it. I think, you know, pretty much fitting it and making it work is almost a no-brainer at this point. But 1967, guys, you know, again, I don't know about you, you know, I 70s child myself, and then 80s, but you know, I don't think back to this the 60s to, you know, this kind of stuff was going on. You know, it's just, how cool is that? You know, and not even that, and even on the civil rights end, Thurgood Marshall becomes the first black justice on the Supreme Court. That's amazing. Amazing in the 60s, in the late 60s for that to happen. The United States Senate confirmed Thurgood Marshall as the first African American Supreme Court justice with 69-11 vote. How fantastic is that? Good for you, Thurgood Marshall. Your family and name must be proud. What a legacy. What a fantastic legacy that is. In 1967, this is terrible. And this is kind of coming off last week. You know, we talked a little bit about environment and climate change and all that's going on. And, you know, again, you know, if I didn't even mention this to you guys, you probably would never even know this. But in March of 1967, the SS Torrey Canyon supertanker ran aground off the south of England, causing a large oil spill. That it was an ecological disaster. The tanker ran aground between the Land's End of Sicily Islands. It leaked over 100,000 gallons of crude oil into the sea. The oil reached the coast of Channel Islands, France. The oil slick spanned about 270 square miles. The spill was the worst in history at the time and prompted tighter international regulations for ships. So, you know, again, that craziness has to happen before somebody's like, hey, wait a minute. We got to figure out a better way of doing this. And now these oil tankers, they, you know, it's really, you don't even worry about the oil tankers anymore. The way they build these things now, they're literally like, you know, 10 layers with rubber, you know what I mean? They, you know, not to say that it can't happen, but for the most part, they built them pretty strong. You know, it's just getting the oil. It's the mining of it. That's the stuff that you worry about, you know? But again, that was in 1967, guys. 270 square miles of 100,000 gallons of crude oil into the ocean. Damn. You know, and how long does it take for that stuff to go away? You know what I mean? Like, it's probably still out there. You know what I mean? In some way, shape, or form, it's, you know, probably still out there. And you wonder, you know what I mean? The seafood and the mercury levels, you wonder why. Other cool stuff. The Lunar 3 orbit went up in 1967. You know, and guys, I mentioned, you know, I hate to ever be corny on these on the show, but I always like to shine the light on the great things that we've done as a humanity. And I think like things like this, we tend to lose sight of how amazing it was. You know, the technology, like I say, the technology that you carry in your pocket, that you're listening to the show on right now, is probably 1,000 or 1,000,000 times more sophisticated and smart than the computers were that sent the first man to the moon. You know what I mean? Or the first lunar orbit module to the moon. Like how amazing is that? You know, like the advancement of time. And in 1967, you know, leading up to the Kennedys and the great space race. But like, it was the lunar orbits like this that did that you know, they sent up ahead of time to, you know, map out the moon and figure out where the heck are we going to land this thing and where are we going to put it, because you just can't go up there blind. And that was the case of this. The Lunar 3 orbit spacecraft, they sent it up in February. The main purpose of the orbiter mission was to photograph the surface of the moon in order to find and analyze potential safe landing sites for future missions and survivor Apollo. The cone-shaped craft also measured radiation and micro meteor impacts. You got to think of that stuff, right? Like little meteors and stuff like could puncture your suit, right? I mean, you think it would. The mission lasted a total of 264 days, and it ended in October after taking 149 medium resolution pictures and 477 high resolution pictures. So cool is that, right? Like, but you know, without that, man, we don't. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to the moon. Like, we're not making that amazing leap forward, right? I mean, that's an epic, right? You want to hear something really cool? How about you guys would be cool? Just I don't know. Some of you might be into this. Some of you might not. I don't know. The idea. Imagine if someone offered it to you, right? If someone told you, "Hey, listen, when you die, or you're gonna expire, we want to take your body and we want to freeze it, and then if there's ever a way to bring you back, we'll bring you back." Right? I mean, would you, if that was offered to you, is that something that you would accept? And the other side of that is, we'll talk through this, but the other side of that is what if you have, like in this case, Dr. James H. Bedford became the first person to be chronologically preserved after his death in January. Bedford, at 73, old philosophy professor who died of kidney cancer, asked to be preserved with the hope that he could be revived in the future. He was frozen within hours of his death by a Cryognosis Society of California. Robert Fernoid, Dr. Denate Bernol, and Robert Nelson, and Dr. Renault Alb all took part in the process, during which Bedford's body was injected with chemicals meant to help preserve him better in cold temperatures. Stored in cryocapsule, kept in a bath of liquid nitrogen at negative 196 degrees Celsius. He has remained in Ulker Life Preservation Foundation since 1982, and he's been transferred around a couple of times, but he's still in that capsule, and he's still on there, man. Imagine that. How is that creepy? Or imagine imagine the idea of that happening. Okay, so you got kidney cancer, and I mean, how terrible is that? That's terrible. But the fact that somebody says, "Hey, listen, you're going to pass. When you do, we're going to freeze you," and then imagine what. Yeah, I can't wrap my head around that one. I don't know. Would you guys do it? I don't know if I would do it, or I don't know. I mean, what's the world going to look like 1,000 years from now? If we were sending, unmanned crafts to the moon to take pictures of it. You know what I mean? What's coming in the next, 80, 100 years, right? Crazy. It's pretty cool. Do you guys know that in 1967, a little technology on you, the first ATM, automatic teller machine, was put into service at Barclays Bank in London. How about that? That's 1967. An automatic teller machine. I don't even know how that would even work, right? You know what? I bet you it's rudimentary. I'm almost curious to Google it and see in 1967 what an ATM machine looked like, because I don't even know how the thing would talk to you, right? The first Boeing 737 took maiden flight. How cool is that? The Concords. Guys, remember the Concorde? I don't know if you guys remember the Concorde, but the Concorde was there was a few of those, and they used to fly at supersonic speeds. And then there was. Unfortunately, if you guys have a chance to, and you have some time to kill and you want to watch a good documentary, there's one out there about the Concords and that whole process. And they invested like ridiculous amounts of money in that program. But the issue, they started falling out of the sky. It was just a terrible, terrible tragedy, people dying. So, but that was cool. It was just, man, again, trying to just push the boundaries. I think you could fly coast to coast. I hope I'm not exaggerating. I think it was 3 hours. You could fly coast to coast on that Concorde. And that was pretty much it in that aspect. But some really cool stuff that happened in 1967 was the release of the album Sgt. Pepper Lonely Heart Club Band by the Beatles. Guys, I mentioned to you guys in the past, I wasn't always like a super duper like crazy Beatles fan, and as of more recently than not, I've been listening more and more to them, and kind of, I guess, appreciating the art. There really is art there, and it's you may agree or you might disagree, but nonetheless, if you love music, you appreciate kind of what went into what they built, because nobody was doing this stuff. It was they did get weird, and of course the drugs are involved, and they're coming out of this is 60s, but the stuff that they were talking about and they were singing about, and there were other bands too. Like we'll talk about those in a little bit, but there were other bands out there too. Again, you almost forget that this was in the '60s, and people. When I say oppression, I don't want to use. Don't misconstrue it with what today's oppression means. I mean the '60s oppression, just on our own society, the way that the parental unit. And the children, and the husband had the role, the wife had the role. The man would go to work, the woman would not. She would stay at home, and it was Donna Reed and little Billy and little Jane and the poodle dress and the soda shop, and it was and then this all comes out, and it almost like it's a rebellion and almost a time, and it's a shift of. Just the society and the norms of saying no, that we're not going to do this like this anymore. We want to try just to shift and do a little bit more. And that, I think everything changes and everything shifts when something like that happens. And when I say that, I mean even on the economical end, you've got a different mindset. You again, so dad's the plumber. And then the kid is expected to grow up and be a plumber, but no, instead he goes into accounting. But now he's able to run the accounting part of the business, but doesn't mean he's not contributing. It's just he's not a plumber, but yet he's able to contribute. So using that kind of concept, and then just again, not saying that you had to do or work at the factory and clock in and clock out. So again, that whole shift in the '60s, and again the Beatles being so pivotal with their music and their message, they came out with. That album, Sgt. Pepper, and that was so popular. They released it was an experimental concept of Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club, and they released that in June. And they had just declared that they were done touring. And again, when you're touring, you really can't make music. So when they were done, they took a break, they took a hiatus, and they went and they wrote amazing music, and. Some of which, I mean, you can't appreciate unless you hear it. And
picture yourself in a boat on a river with tangerine trees and marmalade skies. Somebody calls you, you answer quite slowly. A girl with kaleidoscope eyes.
So this is the stuff they're putting together. I mean, nobody's playing this stuff. Who's writing this stuff? Right? Like it's creation, guys. Right? Just amazing stuff. And this, of course, and this kind of music just leads the way into other bands, and just really just a whole industry of music that changes everything. It's just not to the conform, not the Frank Sinatra, just completely changing the way that we consume music and entertainment. You know what I mean? And you have a band of guys that are writing this kind of stuff and just revolutionizing. So, guys, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm a super crazy fan and love music. So, when you really get into the history of it and the way that these guys were putting this stuff together and using different sounds, and when you really pay attention, it's like a journey. So I always enjoy it, and I always want that to be a part of the show, and I always want to share that with you guys, because it's important to me. And if you didn't know, again, like great bands like the Beatles, the Doors, you need, like, what's the outlet? Rolling Stone magazine, right? Like what was bigger than Rolling Stone magazine? And in 1967, November of 1967, and if whether you're a fan of Rolling Stone magazine or not, one thing I never understood, why the hell the freaking thing was so big. It just so awkward. But outside of that, it was if it was anything entertainment, music, politics, popular culture, it was like professional journalism about, just music. And as a matter of fact, John Lennon was on the cover, Rolling Stones. I mean, so many bands, and they went on forever. But you know what? I will tell you that I remember When the early Rolling Stone magazine, I was very interested in, but then I know towards the end, and it doesn't exist anymore. But towards the end there, they got really they got muddy. They got into some real political stuff and some political views that were just really kind of off the deep end, and just people just weren't buying into it. So it kind of met its own end, and it kind of was time to move on anyway. And even now, the way that we consume everything is like social media driven, and really nobody's really, unless you're reading a book, nobody's reading like a newspaper, right? I mean, that's right. That's fair to say. I think so. Yeah, we'll say that. Let's see. Simon and Garfunkel, 1967. If you guys didn't know, it was the Monetary International Pop Music Festival in California. It featured some of the 60s iconic Jimi Hendrix, The Who, Janis Joplin, Steve Miller Band, Simon and Garfunkel, and of course the Grateful Dead. Evel Knievel, he jumped his motorcycle over 16 cars. Evel Knievel, man, talk about legacy. That poor bastard, they said, legendary, I don't know. That he literally broke every single bone in his body. I mean, that's some dedication. And the guy would just jump, and nothing to take, not to take anything away from the guy, because I think he jumped over the Grand Canyon or something like that, and I couldn't do it, so I won't talk about it. But nonetheless, I mean, I think I remember watching a couple of his specials. I mean, actual, news breaking specials of him jumping over like buses and stuff. And I remember like the build up. I don't know if you guys will agree with me, but the build up would be so like, I don't know, they talk about it, and they would the practice, and like they would make it like an hour long, and then the actual jump would take place. And it'd be like 20 seconds, you know what I mean? Like, and then he'd just jump, and he'd land, and everybody would clap, and then that was it. Hey, Evil, how'd you make out? Oh, well, it was a tough jump, yeah. And that was it. It was a big hoopla for nothing. It was, I don't know if anybody else will say. Not to take away anything from the guy. Anybody who's jumping over buses with a dirt bike, man, good for you. He jumped over the Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. That was the other one. The fountains. That's right. Crazy. I mean, you know what? If I had the Evel Knievel toy, Brother Lou, he'll shout out Brother Lou. He'll remember. I think it was like a wind up one. You wound it up in it. Yeah. If you didn't know, 1967, Elvis Presley married Priscilla. He did that on May 1st. There was some controversy with that. I think she was really, really young. I think that was. But then again, guys, I'll tell you. This is not sacrilege by any way, shape, or form. But if you love music, like I mentioned, I tend to do it often. Not that I would take anything away from the king, Elvis Presley, because I mean, it's, the guy was an entertainer. He had the energy. He literally, I mean, there was a lot of American influence. He had a lot of influence. But I will tell you that a lot of his talent, a lot of his influence, didn't come from the Hollywood Hills. It came from, Louisiana, and a lot of these places where these people were playing. It was, this African American jazz, just blues music that nobody was hearing. There was no outlet for it, and I always caution, because I say to myself, you know what, Elvis Presley was the catalyst. He was able to take that music and get it out there, because otherwise no one would ever heard it. It would have been forever, but he did, and it really that was the growth of Elvis Presley. That's where he got his influence. That's where the music came from. That's where that bluesy, jazzy, rock and roll came from. So, I never, again, like I said, I always caution. I never want to take anything away from Elvis Presley. I know I have some fans. Shout out Aunt Anna. I know you love Elvis very much. But, his music and his influence came from somewhere else, and I always like to give credit to that. I'm going to say this. Anybody who knows me will realize how difficult it is, but I'll just mention it because it is a feat. Barbra Streisand performed at Central Park before 135,000 people, so Good for you, Barbara Streisand. I'm not a fan. Carroll Shelby. If you're a fan, guys, the Mustang GT 500 Fastback was released in 1967. If you can get your hands on one of those, forget about it. I mean, I think they might be one. They were just talking about it on my favorite show, Sunday Morning. And in case you didn't know, the musical Hair, it opened off Broadway in 1967. And, of course, it became the phenomenal Broadway hit that it is today. Hair. And I think it still tours. I think they still do it. Popular films, you guys. Popular films. The Dirty Dozen. You Only Live Twice. I'm not even sure. Casino Royale. That was the original one. The Man of All Seasons. Don't even know what that is. And Guess Who's Coming for Dinner. I'm not even sure, guys. You know what? I probably would have. I would have probably cut that out of I wouldn't even have mentioned that. There was some. Maybe. I guess if you're a fan. I know The Dirty Dozen. I know that one. But Man of All Seasons, Thoroughly Modern. Maybe. Okay, you know what? I'm going to read these just out of respect because maybe you know them. Okay, so The Dirty Dozen, You Only Live Twice, Casino Royale, A Man for All Seasons, Thoroughly Modern Miley, Barefoot in the Park, To Sir with Love, In the Heart of the Night, and Guess Who's Coming for Dinner. So those were the top films for 1967. And in case you guys want to know, I just kind of just threw it in there. In the theme of musicality, can we talk about some of the greater bands? And one of my favorite all-time bands, and it's probably yours as well, is of course our favorites. Of course, you know that I'm talking about Mr. Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Ronnie Wood, and Brian Jones. The Rolling Stones.
Childhood living is easy to do. The things you wanted, I bought them for you.
Fantastic, guys, right? These guys are still touring. They are the hottest working band of all time. I'm amazed that Mick Jagger can still do it. And guys, Keith Richards, he's fallen out of more coconut trees than anybody. Like, I don't know. I think he drinks formaldehyde for breakfast. I don't know what he's doing, but he's still out there kicking, and these guys are doing fantastic. But the Rolling Stones, hats off to you. Wild Horses, what a great jam that was. I just wanted to kind of throw that in a little bit. Other popular bands, guys, the Supremes, they were big. And then, of course, if you didn't know, Jim Morrison, Ray Manitowoc, Robbie Cringer, John Desmore, Jimmy Minivac, Rick Minivac, Pat Sullivan. No, doesn't ring a bell. What if I told you guys, right? It was a little something like this. The Doors.
Day destroys the night. Night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide. Break on through to the other
1967,
side.
man.
Break on through to the other side. Break on through to the other side, yeah.
Right? I mean, totally drug induced. Like, you can't. I mean, this is. Who's writing this stuff? You know what? I was in a couple of bands. I'll tell you, I was in a couple of bands with some very talented people. Shout out to Infinity. And, we try to write some stuff. You can't come up with this stuff. Right? Like, that's not even normal. Look how great. It's amazing. It all works. creation. I mean, you even think about it. The left channel, the right channel. Right? I mean, just experimenting with everything. Just experimenting with, I mean, again, 1967. I mean, the trend setting. I mean, the crazy trend setting. It's just amazing, amazing stuff. And that's the Doors, guys. Jim Morrison, I will tell you, he does give me some Stranger Danger. I won't lie to you. He does. It is what it is. What are you going to do? But do I not listen to their music? I wouldn't say that. I do. If it's on, I'll listen to it. But you know what? I still say that Little Stranger Danger. How about another great one? This is, you know what? We'll do one more. We'll do one more. Maybe two more. Maybe two more. This one you guys are gonna love. If you didn't know, you're gonna know. Fantastic. I mean, matter of fact, true story. This man, and I'll tell you his name in a second, had a golden toilet. Of course, I'm talking about the great Jerry Garcia, Bob Ware, Phil Lesh, Robert Hunter, The Grateful Dead, Viola the Blues. Right? Fantastic, man. Good stuff. The Grateful Dead. You gotta love the Grateful Dead. I'll tell you what, guys. I can take the Grateful Dead in like small portions. I can't. I'd be a liar if I sat here and pretended like I listened to them all the time. And you know, I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't, you know, acknowledge one of my all-time favorite artists of all time. You know, Eric Clapton once said, after I heard Jimmy play, I wanted to burn my guitar. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jimi Hendrix.
Well, she's walking through the clouds.
Amazing. And he played a right-handed guitar, left-handed. That's how he learned how to play. Right? Just amazing stuff, guys. Amazing stuff. And you know, I never want to sound bitter, but you know, you always wish that there was some type of that this kind of creation could continue, and it just doesn't seem right. Am I wrong in saying that? Like, is there anybody out there writing music like this now? Is there something out there that isn't being pushed out of some, you know, some computer? Just has some soul and some passion. I mean, literally making love to that guitar. Right? Little Wing. Whew. Yeah, goosebumps. Amazing stuff there, Mr. Jimi Hendrix. Rest in peace, brother. Another shame. What a loss. Pink Floyd was big too, guys. Pink Floyd was big. Eric Clapton. It was Cream at the time. He was a member of Cream when he was in 1967. David Bowie was out there a little bit, and you know, this last one, guys. This will be the last one, and we'll and this will be it. But this to me, when you know, you cannot deny talent. You know what I mean? You can't, and it's one of those things that, you know, it's kind of like, you know, Neil Young is a perfect example. Some people will be like, "Oh God, geez, Neil Young, he sounds terrible," and you really have to stop for a second and really digest it in its completion. It's not just his voice. It's the words. It's the experience. It's the journey of which the way he tells his story. And if I had to pick, or if I had to think of anyone else along those lines that just, a poet, someone who is a musical poet, who has written and literally, and this is going back 1967, and in 2016, this individual in 2016, so in 1967, this guy's writing music, and poetry, and then in 2016, he's awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature, and of course, Mr. Bob Dylan.
Well, it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, baby, even you don't know by now. And it ain't no use to sit and wonder why, baby, it'll never do somehow. When your rooster crows at the break of dawn, look out your window and I'll be gone. You're the reason I'm a-traveling on, but don't think twice, it's alright.
Right? I mean, can you even wrap your head around that? Literally encapsulating the times of, I mean, you just, right? You're there. You literally, he took you back there. You were there. You were back in 1967.
Your light, babe. I'm on the dark side of the road.
Man.
But I wish there was something.
Enlighten your life, guys, and just indulge in what you can. When I think of music like that, don't think twice. It's all right.
Don't think twice. It's all right.
Seriously. That's what you guys should be consuming, man. Your life would just so that much better, really. So Bob Dylan, hats off to you, sir. Cheers, fantastic on that, guys. And that's it. That was the little music segment. I always love to bring a little music into the show, and I thought that was some really good stuff. Great choice of music. I think 1967. I'll be honest with you guys. This is as far back as we have gone. I feel like we've gone into the DeLorean, hit the flux capacitor, and we traveled way back. But I'm loving being here. This is some great music. I didn't realize, how much influential music was out there. And even TV shows, right? Like, so, in case you didn't know, I'll read a couple of these up. I'm guessing a couple of these I don't get. Some of them I get because I watched, and you guys probably watched too, like Nick at Night. Some of the TV shows, 1967, The Prisoner. How about the Beverly Hills Billies? I Love Lucy. Oh, Lucy, you will explain it, do. The Saint, Z-Cars, Doctor Who, General Hospital, right? That was huge, General Hospital. Bewitched, right? Bewitched, that was a big show. I remember that one. Crossroads, Jeopardy, with Mr. Alex Trebek. And Hogan's Heroes. That was a big show. And that's still on. They still play that. I Dream of Jeannie. And how about this one? You guys remember this one. Tom and Jerry. Right? Who didn't love Tom and Jerry? You can't even watch Tom and Jerry now. If you watch Tom and Jerry now, and this is crazy. Absolutely crazy. And this is the stuff that, you know what? Unless you point it out, nobody would even know the difference. But even if you watch a show now, like the maid was always, you could always tell it was obvious that it was a black woman. That was in the house. You never, Tom and Jerry, you never seen like who the people were that like lived in the house, right? It was always the maid that would see, you know what I mean? Like they would, but anyway, it was always like, you could, obviously it was a big black woman. And now it was on the other day, I want to say it was on Cartoon Network. And they kind of voice over the voice for the maid woman where, it was like, before I remember it was so distinctive to me. It was like a southern, like Louisiana, no joke. It was like Louisiana. That's what I would pitch. That's what I pictured. That's what I thought it would. If you asked me where Tom and Jerry were, I'd say they were in Louisiana. That's where they were. But they dubbed the voice of the maid over to make it sound like a white woman. and it just sounds so awkward. Like, and that's one of those things, like, you would never even notice it. Nobody would ever even point it out if you didn't go ahead and just leave it alone and not mess with greatness. Like, you can't watch Tom and Jerry Tom can't chase Jerry around with an axe. Like, it's so, you know what? That was great stuff. And you know what? We did some crazy shit as kids, but we didn't hurt each other the way that Tom and Jerry kind of went at each other, right? We didn't. Because we knew, like, that shit hurt, right? I mean, it was, if you got hit with a stick, it hurt. If you got hit with a rock, it hurt. Like, you would bleed like that. And we knew that. It's like this generation doesn't know that. And you almost got to filter them from themselves. Terrible. But Tom and Jerry, I love Tom and Jerry. Miss Tom and Jerry. The original, anyway. Star Trek was another one. That was with Captain Kirk. Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock. Yeah, man, good stuff. Good stuff. And that, you know what? Here's a good one for you. How about the Monkees? You guys remember that TV show? Maybe, maybe not. I watched it. I loved it with Davy Jones. I believe Davy Jones just passed away. He might have been the last one. I could be wrong, but it was Davy Jones, Michael Nesmith, Peter Tork, and Mickey Dolenz. Rest in peace, you guys. The Monkees. They were right there. They had a lot of TV shows. If you have a chance to watch it, check it out. The Monkees TV show. It was pretty cool. It was Monkees. How about this? 1967. Want to know who was born in 1967? Blow your mind. Ready? Faith Hill. Tim McGraw's wife, Faith Hill. She was born on the 21st. Keith Urban. I didn't know that. All right, how about that? Keith Urban was born on the 26th of October. He's married to Nicole Kidman. Our favorite, trendsetter, Vanilla Ice, was born October 31st of 1967. And rest in peace, Mr. Kurt Cobain, who passed away, who was born in February of 1967. So, guys, that's pretty much the year right there. That's 1967. Like that's an hour of showtime for you guys. That's some good stuff. But I'm kind of glad because I wanted to just kind of get into just some other conversation today. Talk about some other things. Talk about the direction of the show, and really considering. Guys, I tell you, I'll be honest with you. When I started this, it really, to me, it was really just trying to find a way to express myself. I knew that I had an opinion. I know that others had an opinion. I know that I wanted to share an opinion. I just didn't know how to go about doing it. I've told you guys and mentioned in the past that I always had that passion, that dream of being on the radio and doing something like along these lines. And the fact that I kind of took a chance with it and said, hey, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna try it, see how it works. If it gets traction, we'll do something. If it doesn't, it doesn't. No matter what, to me, no matter what, it's a win because I'm doing something that I chose and decided that I wanted to do. With that said, it's with great reward and satisfaction that I can say that we're doing absolutely amazing. The show is doing absolutely amazing. The traction is fantastic. The listenership is through the roof. I thank everybody out there who may be spreading the word and helping. For those of you who are listening, for those of you who are tuning in week after week and listening to what it is I'm delivering, I don't know what to say. I just I can't express to you how amazing this is, and it means a whole lot to me. I've dedicated my life, I'd say the majority of my life, to helping and assisting others. And for once in my life, this is something that I've decided that I really wanted to do for myself, and maybe hopes that maybe in one shape or form, maybe generate something that maybe could, I don't know, maybe be something like just bigger than myself. Maybe it's maybe it's you, maybe it's an idea, maybe it's just the reason why you do this instead of that, and those are the main drivers that keep me driven. And I know I come on here a lot and I say thank you to you guys, but I just and I can't I have to say it again. I just want to say thank you. This is really just a monumental moment in my life that I don't want it to stop. The momentum is absolutely fantastic, and I just want to keep delivering this great content that you guys are consuming and reacting to. So, if anybody was, this weekend, we all know if anybody in Massachusetts, when you look at the stats, 99% of our audience is in Massachusetts. Where I would imagine most of us are Patriots fans, and a little bummed out that there wasn't some football for us today. But nonetheless, I mean, some exciting games. If you guys had a chance to check it out, whether or not, I mean, listen, I say this to everybody, ladies. I know ladies listening, even if you're not a fan of football, when it comes to the playoffs, you got to pay attention, because this is all good stuff. This is where it all matters. It all counts. It's every game is a good game. It's not cheesy, unless you're from Baltimore, because if you're from Baltimore, then you got your ass handed to you from the Titans, 28-12. Nobody's seen that coming. Totally blown away. Obviously, the Titans took out the Patriots, and they did it in a fantastic fashion. And they kind of did the same thing to Baltimore. Lamar Jackson didn't have much to deliver, and it was pretty much not much of a battle. I mean, it was pretty clear who was going to win that one. And if I didn't mention Jimmy G, 49ers over the Vikings. I mean, right? How about you, Jimmy G? I'll tell you what, guys. I'll tell you in a minute who my pick's gonna be. But staying on that, if we talk about the NFC, the Texans, the Chiefs beat the Texans. I mean, you know what? If you watch that game today, right, would have blown your mind, because you were watching and the Texans were up 28-0, and then all of a sudden, Mahomes turned it on. Tyreek Hill, he took that hit but came back. And the next thing you know, 31 Texans. And the Chiefs beat him 51 points. So crazy there. So there you have it. So now you've got the conference. It's going to the Titans and the Chiefs. And that'll be on Sunday. And then, of course, on the AFC side, the NFC side, we can talk about... So the Seahawks and the Packers are playing now. We'll see how that turns out. And, of course, it'll be, no matter what, San Francisco will be there. And my pick will be, I think the Chiefs will go. And it'll be San Francisco beating, and I think that's it. That's what's going to be. San Francisco's going to win. Jimmy G's going to get it. He's going to get a ring. I think Jimmy's going to get a ring. He deserves a ring. And I'm going to go with my heart on that one. I'm probably totally wrong. If anybody who knows me, knows, do not, and this is a fair warning for you, any of you guys, if we ever hang out, if we're ever in a public place, which is something else I want to talk about coming up soon, something I'm really toying with, but if we're ever in a public place, if I say bet on something, don't bet, because I suck at it. I'm really terrible. I have no business gambling. I'm the worst terrible gambler on the planet, so stay away from me when it comes, don't even hand me a scratch ticket, because if it was a winner, it's not anymore, because you handed it to me, so don't do that. But on that note, really thinking about a couple of events that are coming up, and looking to get involved in a couple of things. I've mentioned to you guys in the past, I'm looking to maybe some sponsors for the show. Like I said, I'm looking for a couple, nothing crazy. I think if I can get a couple of sponsors to the show, then I think we can increase the episodes. I think we can get some. Which is something that I have committed for the new year for the show is guests. I need to bring more guests into the show. I realize as much as you guys enjoy listening to me, we got to bring in some other point of views and some other opinions, because, again, it's just, I never want this to be one-sided. I never want it to be just one voice all the time. I want to bring in other people. I want to share ideas. I want to do all those things. So I'm working on that right now. So, taking the commitment to do that, work that in, get that scheduled. But outside of that, guys, if you know, or have someone who knows, I'm even thinking like, if you have someone who could use, the sponsorship, just send me an email, thebobbykudo@gmail.com, and just kind of send me some information. I'm thinking like a car dealership. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. What do you guys like? It's stuff that you guys would be interested in. That's what I'd like to maybe look into getting sponsorships from, and we could do that. And I was actually thinking, you guys hit me up, let me know what you think. Maybe of doing an event. I was thinking of maybe doing a benefit for the Shriners Children's Hospital, and maybe doing a Bobby Kudo podcast event. Maybe doing a live stream. We'll do a live broadcast, live recording. Maybe do some tickets, and then of course, all the proceeds would benefit the Shriners, right? I mean, what better cause would that be? You know what I mean? And so that's something I'm playing with right now. I'm hoping, maybe get some feedback from you guys. So take a minute, send me some feedback, tell me what you think. Obviously, maybe do some raffles, maybe do some like a Bloody Mary thing. I go to the IPC, and I don't have to count in the bag. It's because the place isn't too big, so you can get crowded in there. But I tell you what, they do these specials on Sundays. They're in Fall River, and they're not all the time. So you gotta get it right on the schedule. They give these amazing Bloody Marys that are literally, it's a meal. It's a Bloody Mary with a meal, quesadillas. I mean, stuffed peppers. God, I can't wait to have some more. But that's an event coming up. Looking to get involved in that. Great time, benefiting a great cause. So be checking that out. Be on the news. Be on the lookout for that. I'll put that on the social media threads. Of course, the Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Throw them all out there for you guys. Easy access. So be on the lookout for that. And again, in the event, I think it'd be a great thing, a great segue. Not much going on right now. We just got out of the holidays, kind of bumming around. Nobody's really doing anything. Looking to see maybe a smaller venue. I don't know. We see how many tickets we get. See how much interest we get. I mean, again, it's be for a great cause, and maybe we can do some raffles. Maybe get some music, get a DJ, hang out, have some drinks, dance around, talk, have a great time. Maybe get some special guests to do like a live front recording with an audience. I just think it'd be an amazing event. So let's talk about that, and we'll see where that goes. So just be on the lookout for that. On the show, did anybody, shifting gears a little bit, did anybody get outside today? I feel bad for you guys anywhere else, but if you were in lovely New England, we were in the 70s today. I mean, it was springy today. It was absolutely beautiful. Rachel and I had a couple of things we had to do. We were able to get out, do them. I mean, I literally had a sweatshirt on. And then we took a walk around the bogs. It was just a phenomenal day. And if you got out today, then good for you. I avoid talking. You know what they say? They say, here's some advice for you guys. They say it's avoid talking the weather with friends, because they say typically weather talk is for strangers. Like if you're not comfortable with somebody, you don't know them very well, usually typically the go-to is, oh, what great weather we're having. So they say not to do that with your friends, because you're giving your friends a complex. So try to talk about the weather with your friends, unless, like, I don't know, it comes up appropriately. I don't know, figure it out. I'm giving you guys the news that they're giving me. I can't make this stuff up. I just kind of share that with you. So guys, I hope, listen, I hope you guys are enjoying, this kind of lull a little bit, right? I mean, just a little break from the craziness. I mean, we're a couple of weeks out. I mean, I understand that this is probably the week that most of us are getting our credit card statements from Christmas and maybe regretting a purchase or two. But outside of that, guys, I mean, hey, here we are. We made it. Granted, no matter what, tomorrow, right? Tomorrow here will be better than anywhere else in the world. We can take that for granted. So that's a good thing. But remember that being a Monday and starting off the week fresh, I would like to ask everyone to just try something a little different tomorrow. And when you get up and you're ready to start your day, or wherever you are right now, and wherever you're doing, whatever you're doing, just stop for a second and just take a minute and think about something that you enjoy. Just take a minute, just to stop for a second and just think about something that you enjoy doing. Whether it's eat something, whether it's something happened to me today, and the reason why I'm even going here is I went into the garage. I went to grab something. I was doing something for the studio. Surprise, surprise, and I got the scent of hay. And I don't know if you guys have ever smelt like hay. Hay's got a couple of different odors. There's when you first fresh cut it, it smells like a lot like grass. But once it's baled and it's been in a barn for a little bit, there's a different odor to it. And for whatever reason, that scent kind of came across me, and I remember it brought me back. Geez, man, I was like 14 years old, and I had a part-time job working at Pomp Brothers Construction Farm out in Westport, Massachusetts. They're down on Blossom Road. Shout out Pomp Brothers. They do like septic, and they're a pretty big outfit. But anyway, back then it was Joe, Uncle Joe, and he was a big man. And I remember he would never say much. The guy literally growled and gurgled, and kind of just, but whatever direction he was pointing, people knew exactly what he needed. Well, he did really well. He did really, really well. But I wonder if anybody's talked about him in a long time. He did really, really well in the area with, people were just developing in the town of Westport. And he was smart enough to get a small little machine and started digging these little septic tanks, right? And just, one by one, house by house. Next thing you know, buys another truck, has a couple of kids. He ends up with one of the biggest farms in all of Westport. The company's doing well enough. All his kids are working. So he gets into like collecting like wild stock. And I may say wild stock, I mean like elk, odad, like really this crazy exotic like animals. But anyway, the long and short of it is I was working there, and I would work there in the summer times, and I'd be cleaning out the bays. And the fun of the job was that, I get to drive around this John Deere 6-wheeler, and I drive around the farm and get to see these beautiful, amazing creatures like just all around you. You know what I mean? It was, you were raking and they were around you, and it was just a cool experience for me. Like, I'll never forget that. I love nature. I love being around nature, and I don't mind a little bit of hard work, but it takes me back, and I remember doing that and how much I enjoyed it. But the cool thing is, right, here's the whole point of the story, the smell of the hay. He used to have a barn out back, and literally the place, he would store hay. He's obviously feeding all these animals, and he would travel all over the world, or the country, I should say, in trailers, and he would trade these animals. Like, he'd leave with a goat and come back with a ram. You know what I mean? Like, it was that kind of thing. But anyway, Al, my friend Al and Al was actually his biological nephew, and they referred to me as Little Orphan Annie, because Portuguese. Portuguese, like I didn't, it was. Anyway, long story short, we decided that we were going to have a Halloween party in the barn, like a legit barn. So we had to muscle. When I tell you, like, these bales of hay, if there wasn't 500 of them, and we had to, like, just, what the idea was to form them all out so that way we could all fit in the middle and have a place to dance and play music. And we busted our ass, and I'll never forget that. But I remember the smell of hay, and I smelt it for days, even after it was on my hands. It was like just permeated to my hands. But we ended up having that party. Man, you know what? I can't even think of who was there and how many people were there. But I hope if anybody's listening to the show and you were there at that party, Blossom Road at Pomp Brothers Farm, man. The idea that his uncle even let us have it, man. And the cool thing was, like today, like, you couldn't do it because of liability, but we did it, man. We had so much fun. It was just awesome. You know, if you guys remember, if you guys watched a movie and it was a movie about the dance that was in the barn with the hay, like that was our moment. We had it. It was fantastic. But that was, you know, that was the cool thing. And that whole, I relived that whole experience by just that quick moment, and I stopped. I didn't just ignore it, you know, and I took it. I smelt it, and I stopped, and I inhaled it, and it took me to that place, guys, and it was an amazing experience. And ultimately, that's what this is, right? I mean, all of this, everything that we're talking about, what you're listening to, wherever you are, whatever you're doing right now, isn't it what we're doing? Aren't we experiencing life? And how are you consuming that? And how are you taking that in? You know, and I don't want to beat it, but I do try to mention it as often as I can, because I want you to understand it, and I want you to consume it, and I want you to live by it. That your self-worth needs to be paramount. You got to take care of you, no matter what you do. You know, you can try to be everything to everyone all the time, but they say, if you live the hero long enough, you you'll live long enough to die a villain. So, you know, in this unfortunate case, you know, we mentioned, you know, Neil Peart at the beginning of the podcast. You know, brain cancer, 3.5-year battle with brain cancer, guys. I mean, that's you know, that's probably a lot more than most of us get. You know, I hate to even bring it up, but you know, last week, you know, our Somerset fire chief, we lost the life. Somerset fire chief, who was also diagnosed with the terminal brain cancer, glioblastoma, and he took his own life. I mean, it's just tragic. These sad, terrible, tragic stories that you hear that are just heartbreaking. You know what that does to that family. The change of one day to the next, guys. You can't wait. You can't wait for the one day to the next. Like, you got to do it now. You can't wait to get the bad news on the phone to realize that you need to make that move, or you need to make that change in your life. You got to do it now. Now is the moment. The year is new. The year is fresh. Take it by the horns and make it yours. But you got to do it. And if you don't take that chance now, you're never going to take it. You're never going to take it. It gets further and further and further away from you. And ultimately, you got to look at the sacrifice versus the reward. If you are or want to be anything in this world that you choose to be, you're going to have to choose to do it. Nobody's going to do it for you. No one said it was going to be easy. No one said it was going to just be handed to you and that it was all going to be great and it was all going to be fantastic. You know, even with the podcast, guys, you know, again, I remind you guys, I have a full-time job, you know, and I have struggles with that because, you know, there are a lot of important elements that I'm responsible for. So to me, that's a priority. I got to make that a very strong priority because a lot of the people depend on my efforts and pre-planning when I do that. On the other side of that coin is also, you know, the podcast and what that means to me and how important that is in my life. And I also want to give that the attention that it so much truly deserves. All of you. The way I look at it is I have a commitment to every single one of you who decide to download and listen to the podcast every single week. It's clear that, you know, there are a consistent number of fans that are listening and that are consuming the show from start to finish. And for that, I am truly grateful. That only means that I just want to just make this even that much better and that much more fruitful for you. So let's continue to do that. But what I want to do is mention your support. You know, and when I say your support, guys, I really mean just, you know, what do you got to say? Share your thoughts, share your ideas. I would love to share them on the show. I'd love to read some of your comments. If you guys want to shoot me an email, if you have a cool story about something, you know, like I just mentioned that moment, you know, taking that moment, like I mentioned today, the moment of just smelling that hay and just letting it take me back to that moment. Share those stories with me. I want to hear them. I want to share them with you. If I have them, I'm sure you have them, and I think we would all love to hear them. So, you know, whether you want to stay anonymous and you want to share whatever it is, just, shoot me an email, send it to me. Jay Archambault sent me an email the other day, about our trip to Maine. There was so much about the trip that I completely forgot about. That when I read it, I was like, geez, I do remember that and how much fun that was, and how much I missed that time. And it seems like it was just so long ago. So do that for yourself, guys. And if you do it, share that with me. Take a minute. You don't even have to type anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could even be lazy about it and just hit the dictation button and just speak it to your phone and just send it to me. I'll get it. I mean, I'll decipher what you're saying. God knows that the dictation works so great on the iPhone, right? It's just terrible. But nonetheless, send it over. Also, guys, if you haven't had a chance, go over to Etsy. I remember I mention it often, but I just wanted you to remember www.etsy.com/shop/the Bobby Kudo Show, and go get yourself a t-shirt, go get yourself a mug. The prices are fantastic. They've come down. Obviously, the height in shipping is not crazy right now, so take the opportunity of that. Go over there. I do believe I will be running a special soon. I'm going to see what I'm working with it, guys. I keep telling you guys I'm figuring this stuff out, and I'm going to think maybe do like a 10% thing and maybe do something like that. On the other side of that, I have ordered. I will let the cat out of the bag. I have gone to another service, and with this service, I'm able to order the product immediately and just have it delivered to the house. The unfortunate part about that, it's like all the full expense up front. I gotta buy it all and get it before I can share it with you. But the cool thing about that is what I've got is pretty cool. I'm really just curious on the quality of the products. I'm only kind of banging. There's a mouse pad. There's anything, of course, there's a couple of t-shirts, and then I think there might be a couple of mugs. So what I'll do is I'd like to do a couple of things, maybe a couple of raffles, or maybe even maybe we try to stimulate some of the growth of the show. Maybe if I know a lot of people do the, hey, look, if you follow the show and then you tweet it, then you'll be entered to the raffle of winning some pretty cool t-shirts. These are exclusive. I don't have a whole bunch of these. I only made a couple of them. So I don't know that I'll make more. So these are pretty exclusive Bobby Kudo t-shirts. They're really, really great. Always great quality, of course. And then some other cool stuff. And then maybe doing some really cool prizes. And just to try to stimulate a lot of the interaction and growth with the show, but because I want you guys involved. I mean, it's important to. This isn't really just all about me. I would love this to be about me being the catalyst for you, to share your stories, to share your experiences, your challenges, some of the things that you face every day. I mean, nobody's doing this alone. And you know what? If I'm going to share something on here, I want you guys to share something too. Maybe together we can come up with an idea or a solution for it, right? I mean, why couldn't we? I can't imagine why couldn't we. And just, you know what? On a quick note, and I hate to even bring this up, but the whole thing with does anybody understand the royal family? Because if you do, I would love to hear about it. I'll sit down with you. Let's go have a cup of coffee. Me and you. Let's go sit somewhere for an hour. You can explain to me. I get the whole queen king thing. I get that. What I'm curious about is how that's relevant to today's society and the UK and all that. I don't know how that all matters. I don't get it. So now that you know, the Prince and Duchess are saying, hey, look, we want out, we split, so we don't want anything to do with the family anymore. We're gonna do our own thing. We're gonna and of course the funny thing is she takes the baby to Canada, right? She takes the kid to Canada first, and then they both make the announcement that they're not going to be a part of the active part of the family moving forward. So you wonder if the Queen would have been like, hey, we're taking the baby. Imagine the media storm on something like that, right? Imagine the Queen taking the baby because the baby's everybody's you watch these people and they're in these horse-drawn carriages and these beautiful weddings, and they spend these millions and trillions of dollars in pounds and to make these events these just superficial. I mean, none of it even matters. What's the I mean, honestly, guys, seriously. I mean, I get Parliament, but what's the actual political power that the the Queen has, right? Other than the fact that she will probably outlive Keith Richards. Outside of that, I don't know what her special power is, but somehow that's relevant and people like fall hook, line, and sinker. But I see some splits through. First thing was, guys, if you noticed, was the Prince there with the whole Epstein thing. He kind of, and then this. So you wonder what's going on. Maybe, again, somebody said something and they didn't like it and she didn't like it. And she's a strong black woman. So I would imagine that she's not taking shit from anybody. So good for her. I think that, at some point you got to shake things up a little bit. And all, I don't think this hurts anybody. And the wise words of Kim Kardashian, if they're talking about you, they're talking about you, right? Like you're making money and, everybody's interested and everybody wants to know what's going on and what's the true story behind the door and what's the secret. At the end of the day, if there was ever, forgive me for saying this, all my fans, that England, everybody, listen, I apologize, but at the end of the day, I don't fall for it. And it's everybody all over the world. It's not even, it's just somehow people are infatuated with that. And, what a tragedy with Princess Diana. I get all that. And she did a lot of good. And, when you can take that kind of publicity, which she had, and you can do as much good as she did for so many, many years. And, if you ever watch the documentaries about that, and, it was a tough life. And I would imagine the standard of that constant pressure of living up to the expectations of the crown, right? But anyway, she did her thing, and she did a lot of good for a lot of people in a lot of places. So hats off to her. And you wonder and hope that this this would still be the cause or reason for this I guess governmental. Is it like the Vatican, right? Would it be like the Vatican? Because what is the Catholic Vatican? They have their own, that's their own place, right? The Vatican's it's theirs, but they police it and they do all that. Is this kind of like the same? I don't know. I don't get it. I still don't get it, what it means, but nonetheless, I guess the Queen might have a little bit of power. If she's pissed off, she could probably get somebody fired, I guess, right? Maybe. But I mentioned that only because it's very interesting. It's something that I've never seen before. And if anything at all, it's just interesting that there's finally some kind of shakeup with that. You know what I mean? These people have done things for a lot of times. And you always wonder if there's maybe the boys have some animosity towards the Queen for the death of their mother. I don't know. Maybe, look at that. I'm gossiping. Can you believe that, guys? I'm gossiping. Crazy. About the Queen. Huh, long live the Queen. Oh, great. Yeah, right. That's all we need. And outside of that, guys, that's pretty much the episode. That's episode 22. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Just kind of a little bit of that. I know we started off real hot and heavy, talking about Iran and that whole situation. It made me very frustrated, and I really wanted to get that out in the open with everyone. And before we got into the fun part of the show about the great music that was out in the 1967. Really, when you guys think about it, what a great year of just, guys, that's really where it all started. The 60s brought in the 70s, and it really was a time of non-conforming to the same idealisms. I think that everything we have today, ultimately obviously came from history, but in this case, no joke. This was really people taking a chance and going into waters that had uncharted waters, right? We pretty much everything's been done, everything's been said, but when you go back then, a lot of these people were doing stuff that had never been done before. They were saying things, they were taking chances, they were getting arrested, and there was just a lot of just confusion. There was a lot of control. And a lot of people did what they had to do to make or try to have their voices heard. A lot of people lost their lives, but ultimately it wasn't in vain. You think about all the pioneers that made the sacrifices. You know what I mean? even if the cards were stacked against them, it was still something that was gonna inspire them to do what it was they thought was right for just for mankind, or for the better of just people. How about being in a situation that you're just kind of like living, the same old, and you decide that no, I don't want this anymore. That I want more for me. I want more for my family. I want to be able to have some type of impact in their future. And this is, I think this is a perfect example of that, and when I think of, again, I go back to the beginning of the paragraph where you talk about Thurgood Marshall, the first black man to be the justice of the Supreme Court. Awesome. I mean, that's the stuff that just, again, it starts there. Those are the pioneers, the Mickey Mantles. Those are the ones that made it a difference then, and kind of paved the way for the rest of us to kind of be where we are today. So again, it's a matter of changing mindset. It's about changing ideas, but it's always remembering that those ideas can always grow and spawn and create better things. And I think that's the world that we're living in today. The world with you, the world with me, the world with my kids. The way that we all communicate, the way that we all share ideas now. Where once it would take 10 days to get a letter or an idea from one place to another. I can literally think tank with anyone in the world within seconds and split seconds. I can log in to Decomp right now and communicate and talk to anyone in the world and ask them any question. I mean, just the idea that we're able to do that and that we're all connected in this way, it's almost like a neural net of information. So if you're not tapping into that, guys, tap into that. Get involved. Again, try to make a difference, and make a difference for you. I keep saying it, like, it's got to be you. You got to do it for you first, and then after that, you can take care of the world. We can change the world, but we can't do it with weak soldiers, man. We need people that are strong. We need people that are, mentally healthy, and are enjoying the fruits and joys of their labor. Again, if you're working every day, then remember that, it's okay for you to enjoy the time that you deserve. And never take that away from yourself. Never allow anyone to take that from you. But always remember that you are in control of your destiny. And although those invisible barriers, they always appear. I mentioned them before. You need to overcome and see past them. Anyone successful in the world, anyone successful in history, if there was one thing that was always pretty certain, it was always that you would always doubt it and come to almost to a conclusion before you realize that the greatness is there, and then it just takes that one spark, that one moment, and then everything changes. And that's where I feel today, guys. I feel like that spark is there. I feel like the show is burning bright. I think that the future just looks absolutely amazing for all of us, for all the fans of the Bobby Kudo Show, for the brand, for what it is we're doing. The idea that you are all a part of this. Guys, real quick, I want to shout out to Mr. Jerry Callahan, the Jerry Callahan podcast. Not that he needs any help from me whatsoever, but I will say it because I'm really proud of the fact that this week he did, not only did he compliment the show, but he also is a follower on Twitter. So if you guys haven't done so already, please go over, show your support to Jerry. Give him a follow on Twitter. Give him a listen. He's on Apple Podcasts, just like the Bobby Kudo Show, just like we are. And give him a listen. If you guys remember, I mean, guys, listen, I'll tell you, if you go back to the inaugural episode of the Bobby Kudo Show, I talk about Jerry. I talk about the situation with him and Kurt Minahan and how that all went down with WEEI. And really, that was the driving force that brought me to podcasting. I figured, listen, if there isn't anything good on the radio, then I'll create it myself. Like, that was my mindset in doing this. And Jerry was instrumental in that. And the idea that he's back on the radio, he had a great week. He does an everyday show. So if he had Kurt Schilling on, he had a couple of people on. that are just really just interesting interviews. So give yourself a chance. If you have a chance, get over there, go listen to it. It's just, I'm again, the idea that he's a fan of the show and he's now following the show, guys, beyond me. If you ask me, like, again, 22 episodes ago, that this would be what it is, I can only imagine what we're looking at in 44 episodes and 60. Like, what's the show going to look like, and where are we going to be, and what are we going to be doing? And my hope and dream, guys, really seriously, is I'm actually looking at this. When I started, it was a very narrow tunnel, and now when I look down that tunnel, it's huge, it's long, and it's wide, and I've got all these great ideas, and I want to do all these things. And what I really want to do is I want to get involved with you. I want to spend time with the fans of the show. I'd like to maybe book an event, maybe do something, but just have something where we can all get together, meet each other, have a conversation. Maybe, again, like I said, just have some drinks, maybe some raffles, raise some money for some good cause. But I'm really I want to look at something like that. And I figured this is the best time to do it. The show is doing so well. We got so much traction that it would only make sense to go ahead and do that. So if anybody has any ideas, or anybody who has a venue that they'd be interested in maybe helping out, like I said, I'd like to do this. And of course, it would be in charity for the Shriners I mentioned before, the Shriners Children's Hospital. So keeping that in mind, again, I'm not looking to make any money with this. Anything that could be in, like I said, proceeds, maybe we can cover the costs on whatever it costs, and maybe do something and have just a great day or a great afternoon together, whether it be a Saturday, maybe afternoon, evening, right? Some food and drink, right? Why not? Like, we all work so hard, right? All week long. Wouldn't it be great to know that you're going to be going to a Bobby Kudo Show live podcast event, right? With food and music and my mother's Portuguese sweetbread. Imagine that, right? Everybody would be there because it would be like an everybody show. So like everybody would have a blast. I mean, you know what? This has to happen. Like, we're going to make this happen. I don't know what it's going to take, but we're going to work on it, and we'll work out the logistics of it, and we'll make it work. But I just wanted, again, one more time, guys, before I walk us out of here, I just want to say thank you to everybody again, all the fans, anybody who I don't even want to do. I don't want to always constantly be doing shout outs on the show, because I just don't think it's fair that we're constantly throwing them out there. But I will mention the sponsorships, guys. If there's somebody out there that is interested in sponsoring and would like to be a part of the show, again, it's one thing to just sponsor and be on the show. Just think of the idea that once I record and drop this podcast, it plays over and over and over again. And everybody that's listening, if you were a sponsor, that's just great exposure for your business, great exposure for your dreams, whatever it may be. And you know what? Look, I'm all about let's do this together. Like, I want your success to be my success. And again, like I said, I'm not in this for the money. I'm looking at expanding and making things better and bigger, and maybe having the ability to make this a little more expansive. And you guys already know who I am. I'm the host. I'm Bobby Kudo. I'm the host of the show. So imagine, if you can have this, and then of course you can have guests, and maybe even bring in some personalities. There are people out there. I was even thinking, like, if you guys just hit me up again, let me know. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, email. I was thinking like Paul Tuttle Jr. from Paul Jr. Designs, formerly Orange County Choppers. Like, why wouldn't you want to talk to me? You know what I mean? I'm thinking reaching out to somebody like that, reaching out to maybe Dave Parowitz, one of the greatest painters of all time. He's right over in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, not too far away. Why not reach out to him, see what he's up to, see if he'd be interested in sitting down, having a conversation. So these are some of the things that I'm thinking of expanding the show. And again, like I said, if you guys have any ideas or anything that you want to talk about, I would love nothing more than to have you come in, sit down, and to have these discussions, because I think, everybody's opinion and everybody's side has value, and I never just want it to be mine. I'll always throw it out there, and again, it's always my opinion, but to have an opposition of opinion, or maybe a different thought or idea, would be fantastic. I invite it. But guys, so with that said, we're going in almost 2 hours with the podcast. I know it's crazy, right? Like, it's just amazing how quickly this all goes by. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. Again, in honor of the great Neil Peart. I thought the year 1967 was fantastic. Kind of bringing in, again, this is as far back as we've gone. We haven't gone any further. I mean, who knows? We go a little further. I got to be honest with you. I was looking at the 50s, and I looked at the 20s because of the I think I mentioned this in the last podcast. I mentioned I went into the 20s, the 1920s. The music was terrible. Yeah, the music was terrible. I don't care. Everything sounded like it was like a sound box. Bling, bling, bling. You know what I mean? Just terrible. And the clothes was terrible. I don't know, man. You know what? Maybe just me. People like that, like the hey gangsta, hey, right? They like that whole 20s thing. Me personally, I think it was like a dirty time. But that's just me, and that's just my opinion. So what do I know? But all said and done, guys, I just want to again, I appreciate you lending me your ear once again on these little journeys we take on a weekly basis. I hope Monday finds you wonderful. I hope this week treats you very well. I hope you get everything you need out of it. I hope there's an extra cup of coffee there for you every morning this week, and that everything just works out for the better. I know we get some weather coming up, some snow, but you know what? That's what we do here in New England, man. We kind of rough through it. What else are we gonna do, right? Like this, we can kind of just deal with it. And unlike Puerto Rico, man, they're still dealing with those earthquakes, right? Like poor Puerto Rico, they can't get a break over there. Poor people, man. My prayers to you guys. I mean, I feel terrible. You know what, guys? If you want to make some donations and think about Puerto Rico, man. Those poor people need some water, and that whole place is falling apart. I mean, too bad, right? And you know what? That's U.S. Like I think we should be doing whatever we can to help those people over there, man. That's no joke. Especially when it's earthquakes. We talked about the whole climate change and all that, but ultimately you can't control earthquakes. Like there's nothing you can do about that. Earthquakes and volcanoes, right? And they get that. That's just terrible over there. So just think about our Puerto Rican friends, and if you guys have a little something you can throw their way, please do so. Help them out. They're wonderful people, and I'll tell you what, they are musical, and who dances better than them? You know what? And baseball, right? Like, I mean, the greatest designated hitter of all time. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so Dominican, the Puerto Rican, like, right? These people are just talented people. So, throw them some love over there, and keep them in their prayers. A lot of people are displaced over there, and of course, could use some help. So, remember them. Remember you. Remember the show, guys. Remember Etsy. Please go check out Etsy. www.etsy.com/shop/The Bobby Kudo Show. Go show your support, guys. Go grab a t-shirt. Be on the lookout for those few events that I mentioned. The raffle. We'll do a show raffle, maybe like a Twitter thing or maybe a Facebook thing. Maybe give away some t-shirts. Get some mouse pads, some mugs. We'll make it fun. We'll make it cool. Get you guys involved. Get you guys some good gear. And just stimulate the growth of the show. And again, as I just want to say thank you to everyone for letting your friends know, letting your families know, letting your enemies know. Like I always mention, like the raccoon, that Geico commercial there with the raccoon, and he eats something terrible, and he's like, "Come here, you gotta taste this," that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like share that with your friends. Tell them, listen, you gotta go listen to this guy. He's amazing. The content's amazing. The show's amazing. I look forward to it all week long. That's what you guys should be saying out there, right? I hope you are. You know what? That's what I'm saying, right? But why would I say otherwise? Guys, again, I hope that the sun shines on you all week. I hope that you do not feel hungry. You are fed. That your brain is full of knowledge, of wealth, and that everything goes well for you today, tomorrow, and the day after that. But until then, guys, remember that I appreciate you. I love you all equally, and that all roads lead here.